Can you introduce yourself today, Tony?
Hey, how you doing, ladies and gentlemen? I am Tony Saylor, also known as Mr. SOS ATL, also known as Kicks the Skater from Atlanta.
What's SOS?
SOS stands for Sick on Skates. A while ago, before I came up with the name, I was always, appreciated by my skate skills, and people would say, "You're dope, you're this, you're that," and someone said, "Man, you're just really sick on them skates," and it just stuck in my head, and I decided to create another crew called Sick on Skates. It followed my prior crew that I created called Georgia Rampage out of Atlanta.
Speaking of Atlanta, can you tell me about how you heard of the movie ATL?
It's funny that you asked that because actually I was cast in the movie ATL. Prior to the movie shooting, following a year, I was approached by the director, Christopher Robinson. He saw myself and some of my crew members getting down in the skating rink at Cascade and let us know that he was going to be shooting the movie, and he wanted us to be in the movie, but we had to audition, of course. So we took him up on his offer, and a year later, he showed back up, we auditioned, and I made the role for the preps.
What was your experience like being in ATL?
Being in ATL was a great experience for me. It actually gave me an eyeful of how entertainment business works. I learned a lot from meeting a couple of celebrities that were featured in the movie, as well as other people that helped support the movie. It gave me a broad sense of, hey, this is how we do things, and I enjoyed that. I was actually able to be featured in other films and videos.
So what parts of ATL the movie were real and what parts of ATL the movie were fake?
The parts of ATL the movie that was real was actually the skating. We got in there to practice, and we just pretty much made it come to life. The storyline, it follows a actual story that actually happened, but not particular to a person. It's something that goes on in the everyday lifestyle that we lived. So it didn't really single anybody out. It just took an American-made story. And this story was about choices, making the right choice at the right time. But however, the characters that was real was my character, the Preps. The Preps are actually a real skate crew from Atlanta. The Ones are actually a real skate crew from Atlanta, which portrayed the crew that originally are known as the Ones were actually the Cash Money Boys, which were the antagonists in the film.
The Preps were real. Does that mean that people are still doing this in Atlanta today?
People are still doing this in Atlanta today. I mean, it never stopped. It used to go on during the Jelly Bean era, and that's where we got some of the characters and the ideas from. And we just brought it to, the 2000s and featured certain groups, but the groups that were portrayed in the movie ATL, like the Preps, that was a real group.
What keeps you inspired?
What really keeps me inspired with the culture and the style of skating is actually the children that get involved. When they see something that inspires them, they're like, hey, they want to try. They never give up. Once they fall, they get up and they just keep going. And you just watch that and you can see something grow. And that just amazed me. So I'm inspired by that. I'm inspired to continue to do what I do as far as teaching or training or showing people how to do something.
Awesome. Actually got shared on the same YouTube thread. I remember when I woke up and I was like, YouTube shared me.
Oh yeah, I remember that. They picked a video that wasn't highlighted of myself and my crew, and out of 10 minutes, they chose to highlight Sick on Skates, and I was just amazed. And when you contacted me, I was like, wow, that's really dope. They shared Skate Life TV's video, and we were the featured skate crew.
Yeah. So y'all was doing the Atlanta style. What routine were y'all doing in that video?
In that video, we were doing the prep routine. Of course, the preps. I embodied it, and so I continued to nurture and bring that forth in a real setting. And we were out there just prepping.
So if you got two other guys, would you restart the preps?
Absolutely. Preps will forever live. Even when I'm not on skates, I still have that prep style inside me. But it takes a lot to really harness all that information and those routines and just put it on wheels.
Before I start talking to you about what the ATL style is and isn't, I want to ask you, what do you think the difference between a style and a routine is?
Well, the style kind of comes from the culture. It's pulled from the culture, and then you can develop your style. A routine is something that you can put things together, and you continue to do it over and over and over, and then you put your blend or your style or your sauce in it.
So, what about when people say like the ATL style or the Ohio style? What does that talk? What do they mean when they say that?
Well, everybody has different variations of what they think a style is, but for me, I lean into the culture of the city, and if I can see the culture of the city in your style, that makes it the style. Ohio, I'm not too familiar of what goes on in Ohio, but when it comes to Atlanta, I can understand and pretty much dissect. I can watch somebody do something and say, I know exactly where those origins have came from.
Awesome. What are some things that help you identify that?
We got this move called the skate. The skate actually comes from a dance style called the yeek. The yeek is pretty much the origin of our style, of the ATL style. We pull a lot of things, and a lot of people don't know this. We pull a lot of things from that dance. And the skate is something that you would see some, people in ATL that understand the ATL style. You will see that move called the skate, or prepping, or stab. You will see those moves, and you can identify where it came from.
Awesome. So it's a mix of the spirit of the city and routines.
Absolutely, the culture. And with the culture can change. So as we move from the 80s to the 90s, the music changes. And sometimes when the music changes, because we're influenced by what we hear, the music decides how we dress, how we move, how we interact with one another. And you can kind of see, when living in the South, how the South opposes to the North, how the North does things and how the South does things. So in the music industry, we would say, well, what's really controlling the atmosphere? We understand that most of the influence is coming from the South. So you will see a lot of Southern influence in the style or in the culture.
What's the stab?
The stab is actually a routine coming from the ATL style. Pretty much when you lift your right knee up and slash it in front of the left. Originally, what I was told that it was called the stab. It was called the alto because that's the person who quote unquote created it. And from there, it was called the stab because it comes into a slashing design by having the knee come up 90 degrees and then directly slashing in front of the left, and you continue with the process. It also was called cross step. And at the end, right now with the new generation, they're giving it a new name called the step or stepping or something sort of. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it has so many names, but I know it to be the stab.
Awesome. What are let's get specific on some variations of the stab in some generations. Can you tell me about how it's changed and break down a couple of generations for me?
Okay, so let's just start with step 1, step 2, and step 3. Step 1 is, I'll say, it comes from the OG era or whatnot when it was developed. It is not an easy routine to do. You have to understand position of your body, situational awareness, and really when I say the situational awareness, you don't stab all throughout the circle. You on the straightaway, you're stabbing. Once you come to the curve, you're going to hang it or you're going to hold it. And then once you come out of the curve, then you're going to continue to stab. As you're stabbing, there's certain calls that come with that. If you notice, the stab also has a certain cadence. You have to find that cadence within the music. So if the music is intense, you want to make sure your stab matches the flow of the music. If it's not intense and it has a more what we call riding, and I'll get to that point, riding type sound, you want to, smooth it out, but not too smooth because the stab, it was meant to be aggressive.
Okay, so what happens? It starts off there. What happens next?
So after you go through your stab motion or whatnot, you cross your right foot over your left. You have to slightly open and and bring that left foot from the back and step directly parallel to the right. And as you do that, you're going to do a squeeze motion, and then you're going to make sure that when you squeeze, that right foot is going to be behind the left. And then you're going to continue to go with the stabbing motion again. And you're going to repeat that several times until you come to the curve. Now, as you get the stab motion, you're going to notice that you're going to be swaying, because as you're doing the squeezing and crossing over, you're going to go to the left and right. You're going to force yourself to go back to the right, because when you're stabbing, you're going to feel yourself go to the left. It's difficult to explain, but it's easy when I show you, and then you can pick up. And once you learn to stab, which may take you a couple times, once you learn to stab, then you start learning the calls. Some people have different calls; they call it different names, but they're similar in the moves that we do. Like another crew may call it something else, but we call it this, and it's the same move.
If I'm in the ring and I see some people doing a routine together, can I just jump in?
Well, the rule back in the day was you can just jump in a crew, because if you're new, or even if you're old, or or whatnot, can skate. When we started crews, those crews have been skating with each other for some good time, and for someone to jump into the crew, it messes with the authenticity of how they relate to one another. Everybody's on the same vibe. And if you bring a different energy to it, it can mess up the line. And true enough, if you were allowed to jump into a crew, you wouldn't be able to just jump in the middle or jump in the front. You would have to jump in the rear, and you have to make sure that you hold your end. So I suggest, if you're not a part of a crew, to skate with them long enough so that you understand how the front man moves, how the second man moves, and how the third man moves. We have crews of 2s, crews of 3s, crews of 5s. I usually roll with a big crew of 5 or 6 or 7. And when you get to those numbers, you got to make sure that every person in that line or in that formation understands what's coming next. That's why it's good to have situational awareness.
What are some things that you have going for the future?
I got a couple things going for the future. Right now, I'm in the process of teaching classes at a college called Oglethorpe University in Conyers. I was given the honor to teach their students and staff. So I do it every so often, once a month or twice a month. I come in and I put on a class for the faculty or the students. The other thing that I was working on is I'm thinking about purchasing my own skating rink. I've been in the market and looking, and I'm still looking to see if I'm going to actually purchase one that's already built or have one built from the ground up. But stay tuned, you never know. It might be somewhere very close and give patrons an opportunity to travel and experience a different type of skate environment.
What is something that you learned in your process to buy a rink that you didn't expect to learn?
I learned a lot of things, but one thing that really stuck out and made sense is to make sure you have a legal team. Make sure you have legal advice, legal team, a lawyer on standby, someone that can tell you about the things that are going to happen and where is that going to put you. And you just want to make sure that you have not just a legal, but you have a support system, support team to make sure that your business is ran correctly and efficiently.
Awesome. Last question. Can you tell me some of the major routines in the ATL style that you're going to be showing me in a couple minutes?
Well, I'm going to be showing you how to stab, and I'm going to show you how to stab in a circle and how to hang and how to sway. And if we got a little bit more time, I'll show you how to prep.
Awesome. Well, that's all, folks.
1, 2,